The Cannabis Show is for information only. You should always consult with a qualified and licensed physician or other medical care provider.
Welcome to the Cannabis Show. Today we talk about why we're the Cannabis Show as opposed to the Marijuana Show, answer your questions about vaporizer heat, and Hart opens his heart and shares his story on Heart to Heart. Keep watching.
Today, let's talk about how CBD interacts with your CBD receptors. A receptor is the part of the endocannabinoid system that interacts with the natural endocannabinoids that our bodies produce, as well as the phytocannabinoids that the cannabis plant produces. We think that over time, receptors can start to slow down or not fire on all cylinders. This, along with the natural slowing in endocannabinoid production, can start to lead to pain or other issues that we would normally consider age-related disorders. This is where supplementing with the cannabinoid CBD can really come in handy. However, when initially beginning your CBD regime, it may not completely wake up the receptor at first. We always talk about starting your regime with a low dose and going slow. Start with 0.1 milligrams 4 times a day the first week, and increasing slowly to 0.2 milligrams 4 times a day the second week. When you carry on increasing your dosage incrementally, slowly over time, the CBD will finally awake the receptors so it can do its job. Once the CBD starts to fire up the receptors, relief can often be felt from pain, anxiety, inflammation, as well as a whole bunch of other disorders.
When making your own topicals, an added bonus is that you can add in the essential oils of your choice. Cannabis can naturally have terpenes like pine and citrus, but you can up the ante by adding oils like peppermint for headaches and sore feet, or a few drops of lavender, frankincense, cedarwood, or ylang-ylang for sleep. Or add rose, bergamot, or chamomile to your cannabinoid topicals to help reduce anxiety. The back of the neck, bottom of the feet, or insides of the wrists are great places to apply it, and you'll smell lovely.
People may notice that I make a serious effort to avoid using the word marijuana when speaking about cannabis. I'm no stranger to slang, but let me fill you in on a little history about cannabis in North America, which will help to explain why I do not like using that word, and why we call ourselves the Cannabis Show instead of the Marijuana Show. When the Great Depression hit the States in the 30s, some Americans had gotten to a point where they were looking for someone as well as something to blame. At that time, immigrants looked like an easy target. Enter Harry Anslinger, director of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Anslinger needed to pick a big fight in order to make his mark, as well as to give the FBN a purpose, especially considering that federal money was tight. Anslinger launched his campaign against cannabis and used mediums such as movie theaters in order to spread his vile messaging, racializing the plant for white audiences. Anslinger, while testifying before Congress, was quoted saying the following: "Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. Most marijuana smokers are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana usage." Now, every time we refer to our beloved bong fodder, our magnificent muggles, we choose the word to use. Grass, green, gauge, or ganja, call it what you want, but I don't see any reason to be rude about it.
So I sit up here coming into your homes, tablets, and phones every week talking about cannabis and extolling its virtues. But what's my story? Well, I can tell you, I was a casual user of cannabis in my early 20s, so about 2 or 3 years ago. I found I really preferred it to alcohol, mostly due to some weird allergy that I have to alcohol that I discovered at my bar mitzvah when I drank some ceremonial blessing wine. Well, my face lit up like a Hanukkah bush, and I immediately began schwitzing. Oh sure, I endured on occasion when I was growing up, but then I found cannabis. While my friends were drinking their faces off and getting sick, I was the guy at the party chilling and locked down on the Chesterfield. Sure, I was a weekend warrior at the time, but I had already fallen in love with this plant. By the early 2000s, I was struggling with some anxiety and sleep issues, so my doctor prescribed me a pill called Basil to help with the anxiety. The hope was that once I was under control with the anxiety, I would probably sleep better, and if not, there were other things I could take that would help with that. So I began my daily Paxil regime. It kind of helped with my anxiety, but I didn't really like the way it made me feel. I felt like I wasn't myself. And as the months went on, I found myself going a few days without taking it, then taking it for a few days or so, and then going off it for a few more. It took me a little while, but I noticed that when I used cannabis on days when I wasn't taking the Paxil, I was calm, focused, and I usually had a better sleep. I completely left Paxil behind in favor of cannabis, and I have not looked back. Now, those years were a little tough, not because of the anxiety, but because I developed a bit of a reputation as a pothead in the community where I lived. And to be honest, I really didn't care that much, and I ended up wearing it quite proudly on my sleeve after some time, but I'd always hoped that one day other people would see the benefits of this great plant. It's funny though, even though I had that label, I managed to remain gainfully employed in management positions as well as raise 2 great kids and basically live a normal productive life as a daily cannabis user. So fast forward to today, and cannabis is a really hot topic at the water cooler. Everyone wants to know about it. Everyone wants to know how to invest in it. All these great things are going on. People I haven't heard from in years are reaching out to me and asking for guidance because someone they know is suffering from something and they've heard cannabis helps, or they're looking for advice themselves. Well, this warms my heart. I'm so happy that we can be here and finally talk openly about cannabis. I am living my authentic life as a medical cannabis user and advocate, and you should too. Go cannabis, go!
Hello, you can ask us anything on The Cannabis Show, and if you want to submit your question, just go thecannabiссhow@naturalhealthservices.ca, fire off an email, and we'll try to answer it right here. I'm Chris, we got Hart and Basil, and today's question comes from Sammy, and it says, I'm buying a new vaporizer. Right now I'm using one with conduction heat. I've heard you can get a vaporizer that uses convection heat, but is it more expensive? Is it actually better? Is it worth spending more money? So first off, what's the difference between convection and conduction?
Excellent question. So when we have a vaporizer that uses conduction heat, what that is basically the heating element is just heating the cannabis up as it's directly touching that heating element. So it's just heating that surface. When you have a convection-based vaporizer, there's usually a fan involved, but what's happening is it's actually pushing warm or hot air over the product, and that sort of creates a little bit more surface area, a bit of a difference there.
Okay, so when it comes in terms of a vaporizer, then what would you prefer to use? Or
Yeah, I mean, the majority of our stationary vaporizers are often using that convection type technology, so heating that air first and then moving that through the cannabis. It's my personal preference, but there are some great conduction vaporizers out there. Portable convection technology is also, it's really great right now. We sell a couple convection vaporizers. We have the Utilian 721, the Magic Flight Box, one of the original convection vaporizers. They're generally a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it.
it does work, but at the same time, I mean, the one that Sammy has right now, just continue using it, and as long as you keep it clean, it should be okay anyway.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, Sammy. Well, there you go. Again, if you got a question for The Cannabis Show, just email thecannabisshow@naturalhealthservices.ca.